According to deontology, ethics are the morality of an action is based on the action's adherence to a set of rules. As a participant in the Olympics, an athlete would have to abide by the rules that the IOC has set out, which includes not to take steroids. But in the case of the Olympics, an athlete is not only just a competitor. He or she is also the official representative of a country for that particular sport. It is their duty as national representatives to win a medal for their country and win national pride in an international stage. And if that includes having to take steroids to push themselves to win that medal, then deontology would also say, go for it, I guess.
I think with what Austin just said, I think this really demonstrates the flaw with deontology. With that, there are two conflicting duties that the athlete must fulfill, and because of this, deontology ethics leaves the moral obligation of the athlete to be rather ambiguous. So with that, I think we should probably turn to a different moral theory at this point.
So utilitarianism is essentially a moral theory that says that in a moral dilemma, the course of action that should be taken should benefit the most amount of people to bring them the greatest amount of happiness. If we apply this moral theory to the use of steroids, the argument can go both ways. Firstly, if one athlete takes steroids, while the other athletes do not, that one athlete has a huge advantage over the rest of them. Showing how, and if we apply utilitarianism here, it shows that the use of steroids did not bring the greatest amount of happiness. Rather, it only brought the greatest amount of happiness to the one person who did take steroids, but not to the rest of them who played fairly within the rules. But another way one could take utilitarianism is the fact that if steroids was permissible within the Olympics, that each and everyone would take full advantage of it, thus making a playing ground level again. So if everyone does take it, we could just see this as another technological advancement, no more than equipment or another medical treatment that'll help advance athletes further. So I think that utilitarianism is not the most effective moral theory to apply here because of because of its ambiguity and how it goes both ways.
And I think with utilitarianism, it really doesn't concentrate on the rights, I guess, or the thoughts, ideas of the minority. For instance, past record holders would no doubt be disadvantaged because they weren't allowed to take steroids, but present athletes would be. So I think we should really protect the records, keep the integrity of the records consistent in respect of steroids.
No, I've got a problem with that argument though, because sure, previous athletes didn't have access to steroids in the early years of the Olympics, but they also never had access to advanced training equipment or, going back to the Michael Phelps example, the microfiber swimming suit, which obviously gives him an edge over previous competitors. Again, the spirit of the Olympics is to find the pinnacle of human limits and push beyond that. And we're continuously evolving in our technology. We can't just say, here's a line, let's stop, and let's never try and improve past this.
But I think that's a valid argument, but I think there's something fundamentally wrong about allowing athletes to just take substance-enhancing drugs as a substitute for hard work and dedication. Which brings me to the third moral theory that I think we should discuss. So I'm going to talk a bit about virtue ethics, which claims that one should do what one feels to be virtuous, and we use that as one's moral code. So personally, I think that the use of steroids in the Olympics should not be accepted in the Olympic Games, because first of all, that would promote almost laziness. We're shunning hard work and dedication and values that we should be upholding in favor of and we're instead going to, and this is instead going to benefit athletes who simply shoot up and give a half-assed effort. So I think really with virtue ethics, personally, I believe that it is immoral. But the flaw with this, I guess, is that once again, ethics, this type of ethics is extremely subjective. And because it's subjective and so arbitrary from person to person, that I don't think we can really apply it to a universal group like the IOC and such a large event like the Olympic Games. But I think one can also make the argument that with virtue ethics, if everyone shares a similar virtue, just as how most societies reject incest, if most people accept or share a similar virtue, we can apply virtue ethics to the situation. For instance, I'm pretty sure my fellow colleagues would agree that we should be valuing hard work and dedication once again over the use of performance-enhancing drugs. So I think if we are in general agreement on virtue ethics, we can apply this version of this ethical theory to this moral dilemma.
You know, Peter, I don't think you're really portraying steroids in a correct light. It's not simply a matter of injecting yourself with hormones and magically you'll become 10 times more athletic than you used to be. And you'll still have to do all the exercise, all the training to get to that point of being physically superior to everyone else. I really can't see any ideological differences between allowing steroids and allowing technology in the form of, you know, better equipment, better nutrition and diet, better training facilities, because they're all giving an edge over everyone else, except that you still have to put in a huge amount of effort and a huge amount of dedication to train. I have to admit that even though I don't see, logically speaking, why the IOC should ban the use of steroids, I still intuitively feel that steroids are wrong. I just don't know why.
I think, once again, I think it's because they're promoting the idea. Steroids pretty much represents, at this point in our society, of taking shortcuts, of substituting hard work for simply, once again, shooting up. I know that's not exactly what happens, but I think that's the way society views it. And if we allow steroids, we're promoting this view. So I think in this respect, we can't simply ignore our emotions. And while reason can take us a long way, I think we should pay attention to our intuition and pay attention to our emotions nevertheless.
But I still don't think that we've been able to answer the original question that we posed at the beginning of this presentation. Why does the IOC feel justified in banning steroids, and is using steroids really so immoral in the context of the Olympics?
I think by listening to what you guys just said, I think that although logically we can't justify the use of steroids in the Olympics, I think our morals are more driven by our emotions rather than our reason. At this point, I think that what we feel is right or wrong has more bearing over logic and reason. So I think although we can't really make any definitive statements, using some sort of combination of two ways of knowing probably can lead us to a more definitive and universal answer.